That's funny. Thanks for stopping by, Gomer. You must have a big house if you can see it from that galactic map. Can you hear me? If you're still there or watching or have the sound on. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. So I've got this project that I'm working on. It's basically making, let's see, where's that? See if I can get it to show up. So it's basically making that so it holds a few of these deck boxes. Oh, no worries. I really appreciate you working. I'm just gonna talk like you're here. So basically it's holding deck boxes in here, and then this is the locking mechanism that releases them, and then so this holds 2 deck boxes, so that'll be what, 18? So 36 deck boxes in this Grimoire of the Dead. Yeah. Oh shit. Slow mo. Let me take that crap off because that's super dumb. Oh, did I really do that? I did. Okay. So let me change slow mode on here if I can. Stream. Slow mode. Oh, there we go. How do I turn that off? Chat settings. Okay. Slow. No. Slow mode. Off. There we go. Slow mode should be off now. That was kind of dumb. Yeah. I it kind of drives me nuts if people are spamming chat, just ban them. Like if they're going to be problematic, it's not going to stop because of slow mode, but that's my opinion. So yeah, it's 36 deck box array. So the hinge for the book will be over there. And yeah, so figuring out how to do this is next after I finish the locking mechanism. So yeah, it's right now I'm figuring out how to 3D print these pieces. So I've got the lock basically done, and these are the internals. Mostly, there's still some stuff I need to figure out exactly how it's going to work inside, but I wanted to start getting the 3D print, like how it's going to print exactly down, which means flipping this upside down, like just removing it. So this one will be next. Oh, I already exploded that. But over this one is, yeah, this one's just what are they called? A component that's in here. I make a lot of stuff that's not components, like the array isn't a component because I need to see how it looks to make the next piece. And this is a component because that I actually need, and I'll need to be able to 3D print that as well. And then all the other stuff is just extraneous to help my mind process how I'm doing it and exactly what I'm doing. So I've learned how my brain works well enough to just run with it. Definitely not going to work for everybody. And SketchUp is a reasonable free CAD software. So I haven't taken the time to learn FreeCAD yet, so still using this. Figure that out too. That's awesome. It's really cool. Yeah, I when I went back to college, I was thinking of trying to get a degree in civil engineering, but I knew the math would be my challenge. So went back to school and did some CAD classes and went through the math and did some other stuff just to take up 18 credits. And yeah, it eventually figured out couldn't hack the math, but I did take quite a few CAD modeling classes and design classes. Um, so I learned how to do modeling in um, AutoCAD. So um, yeah, this is fairly similar to that. Yeah, I think it was Calc 4 that I failed like 4 times, 3 times, something like that. Yeah, DFQ was a royal pain. Like, I do okay with the abstract, so I did all right in differential equations, but nah, math is, yeah, right there with you. One thing I really miss having in this program is a way to start a line, hold it in that direction, and then type in how long you want that line to be. Like the exact length you want the line to be. That would be so helpful. Yeah, in this program, I've learned that in the, like you can see in the lower right, it's got this 12.36 millimeter. I've just learned to work with that, and it's got, so the way this one works is, where is that? So I don't want components. Did they change this shit again on me? No. Okay. Yeah, so you've got your format, so millimeters, precision decimal, but then they let you choose the snap interval. So I like it's just relatively easy to design with a 0.05 millimeter snap, and yeah, it's kind of annoying, but you get used to it and you use what you got, and again, it's free, so my kind of price right now. Yeah, and I mean, tedious isn't always bad. It forces me to spend longer figuring out exactly doing the right thing. So it's not bad. It's just tedious. Yeah. Yes. And you don't get to complain about to anyone else about making the mistake because, you know, you set up where the snaps go. It's always my favorite thing that happens basically everywhere you go nowadays. People blame the computer for the problem, but the computer's just doing what it was told. Okay. All right. So I think I got this done because that is the top piece. That's this whole container. And I decided I didn't need that over there. But I did need a way to keep that in. And that's what I was working on. Okay. Okay, so I think I got the geometries all done in there. Everything fixed. That's still messed up, but I think I can remove that. Yeah, that fixes that. world is that like that? I think that's one of the issues I was having. That's what it was. What is going on with that? No, it's all of you. That's so weird. Ugh. Hey, how's it going? Oh, no big deal. Really appreciate you leaving the stream up. Just trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this crap. So bad. Is that just pulling the bottom out? Weird. Okay, so that's done. All of the cylinders have solid internal geometries. The outside has a solid geometry. Plug goes down to the correct spot there. Okay. Save. Thanks everybody that decided to stop in for stopping in. Really appreciate you guys coming by. If you have any questions, please ask. So that is actually cancel. Look at the components really quick. Okay, so I'm gonna make it a component, and it is hey, Vespa Sparrow. Thanks for stopping by. How are you doing? Things are going just fine. Just working on this Grimoire of the Dead project, and I got a couple other CAD projects I need to work on today. Um, but I try to get at least a little bit of work done on this a couple times a week. I got a friend that's retiring from the Navy, and this is all part of making this guy. So, Grimoire of the Dead, it's a Magic the Gathering card. So, I'm working on the book part right now. So, like, this is right now I'm working on the locking mechanism, like how to 3D print the different parts that'll be needed for it. Um, and so this is the locking mechanism. I may change some internal stuff, but it won't really matter for the exterior of it. So that locking mechanism goes inside of here, which holds two of these deck boxes. So it uses a hard sleeve. It's got a little piece on top. Need to do some more geometry on the bottom, but two of those go in there. And then, so this is just a small array of 4 boxes. So those 4 boxes, yeah, it's a 36 deck box array. And this is kind of how it'll be closed, and then open it'll be spread out. I just put them on top of each other to help me figure some stuff out. Actually, while I'm up here, I'm going to do this because I just thought this would be helpful. So just so I can see kind of next to each other how they'll look when they're open. So I know this distance in between isn't going to be 100% accurate, but it'll get me close. And yeah, it's like he's really into Magic the Gathering and a bunch of other like D&D, wargaming, stuff like that. So I was talking to him a while back about what his favorite item, like thing in Magic the Gathering is, and he really likes Grimoire of the Dead. So I figured this would be a good retirement present for him. Um, yeah, there's like I was looking up masks on Thingiverse, just I mean mostly for just like stuff like this. Like I have a respirator that I use, and I was thinking it'd be hilarious to 3D print something like that I can stick the pieces on the front of the respirator just so I mean it's my respirator, so it's not like it'd ever get mixed up if it had something like that on it. And Thingiverse and the sites like it are really nice for the vast majority of things. Like this this deck box, the idea for it came off of Thingiverse. They had a model that was, I mean, it seemed like it was quite a bit thinner, but when I tried to download it, it didn't work. So I was like, fine, I know how to use CAD software. I've done it for a bit. I'm not amazing at it. I don't know all the ins and outs of everything, but I can model what I want. It might take me more time, but yeah. Um, And borrowing ideas is it's it's really weird to me how frowned upon it is in some communities, and yet it's it's what people do. You see something, it gives you an idea for something similar, and you just run with it. Whether or not you credit it, yeah, that's something different. But yeah, so this deck box has these two slots in the side, and um, so on here, these two latches will lock into the two little slots down here. So basically, you push this down, the two slots lock in, and then you've got buttons where you push and then they'll pop back up. And the way I accomplish the popping back up is in the bottom of the deck box. There are four indentations, and those are sized for magnets that I got. So basically, it's going to be north to north, so they repel each other. So you sink four north-facing magnets in there and four north-facing magnets going this way. And then you have just, it repels each other, so there's no springs involved. I mean, yes, they wear out, but not like springs. So yeah, you push the button and the stuff pops out. Okay. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Project. Did you put it in projects? Okay. I'm looking in the channel right now. Don't see it, but yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. And like, so I got ANET A8. So it comes partially assembled, not completely assembled. And so one of the things I've been working on in between other 3D prints is printing out the like cable chain managers. So it's it's something that'll be nice, but it's not really necessary right now. Oh, no worries. Uh, oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Found it. Yeah, that would be. That seems like a really neat idea. Um, like, one of the only issues that I see with the design is having t like it's just an issue with how the motherboard is set up. Just because they've got all the ports on them on in a row on one side. Um, but that's the only issue with it. Like everything else seems really, really like well thought out. And yeah. So are you planning on having, okay, then yeah, absolutely that would work. If that's what you're already planning, then yeah. Um, I don't remember if that Batmobile, the like just in front of the driver's compartment where it's got those pieces, if those popped up or not, because it would be absolutely hilarious if you could put the DVD drive so it popped up like it's the gun mount that I want to remember was in there. Yeah. So if that popped up as the DVD or CD or out at an angle or whatever, like that would just be icing on the cake. Like you've already got an amazing idea right there. Um, it would like for fans on it, I think using the like squirrel cage ones. So the traditional PC fans are designed to move large volumes of air at low pressure, and the squirrel cage ones, the ones that they use for like blowing on a floor after they put something down, or the ones in HVAC systems, those are all designed to move large volumes of air at high pressure. So using that, you can actually get away with uh, smaller vents and intakes. So you could actually put the fan right where that intake is at the front of the car, and that might be enough for it to pull the air into the case, blow it out, and just use the other ventilation on the case to vent enough air through. Um, there are no measurements on this, so it's kind of hard for me to judge sizing of it. But yeah, that's a really cool idea. I like it. I like uh, I like model hacks and non-traditional things that I like doing the wrong things with models for the right reasons that make them better. If you can use it incorrectly to make it better, you've done the right thing. Oh, wow. Okay, that's really big. Is it a like a plastic like store model? Oh no. That like that gives me a pretty good idea. Okay. So this is something that you would make like from scratch then? Okay. Yeah, like if you've already planned for the like getting the cables in and out and stuff like that, that was the only thing that kind of stood out to me. Um, yeah, if it's that big, you would definitely be able to get away with oops, get away with the squirrel cage type fan in the front. So if the car's facing, so if this is the front of the car and you have the squirrel cage fan, so the axis of the fan is this way, so it spins, let's say like this, then that totally sets up the like the front of that Batmobile piece, and you might even be able to get a like 3D print or something so it makes it look like it's, or it would actually spin. Right. I was just saying, like, if you went with the squirrel cage, you could do the like spinning front and it would just blow air everywhere inside. Oh, you're putting a lot of fans in this. Okay. I see. Yeah, like something that big would totally work. That would look really, really cool. Like it seems like a lot of fans like kind of overkill, but if that's what you think you need. Yeah, they're like it's one of the common names for the fan because they're a cylinder. Um, trying to see if I can find something. So they're kind of like this, where they're hollow in the center, and then the fan blades are all around the outside, and they spin. So it's kind of like squirrels running in a cage. So they call them squirrel cage fans. Yeah, and like if you're looking for aesthetics, fans can be nice if you want something that spins. Um, with a 3D printer, I mean, it does give you the option, especially if you want like to put a voltage meter on it or something. You could 3D print fans that are wheels. They don't have much of a fan blade on them, but they're wheels. And so you could just run them at a low RPM and they would suck some air in, but they would be mostly aesthetic. And you could make it look like the car's driving. Um, there's a YouTube channel where the guy tests fans out and it's people send their 3D printed fan designs into him and he like tests them out and runs smoke through them. It's kind of funny. But I mean, if you're looking for something that's like functional, it seems like overkill on the fans. Um, that's why I was saying like the squirrel cage fan might be a good idea, just because it's one fan. It would put a ton, especially something that's like I don't know, probably that big for the front. Um, up there, and it's so if it's about that big in diameter, you could get one that's probably about that long without messing up much. So the vent would be either at the top or the bottom, and that would produce a lot of air running through that. And I don't know if Harbor Freight has one that's that small. You might need to go on like eBay would probably be a really good place to find one of those. Um, their common names are like axial fans or squirrel cage fans. Um, but stuff like that gives you it gives you the movement, and because it's a higher pressure moving a bigger volume, it gets the higher pressure up front and sucking in and gives you the flow over the electronics that you would need to keep them cool. And it because that one fan makes more noise than like a traditional computer fan, but it's less noise than how many did you have in here? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 7 fans, maybe 8. So it was just an idea to reduce noise because if it's in my experience with projects like that, Yeah, so graphics fans don't need an external fan blowing on them if there's enough airflow going through the case. At least that's always been my experience. Like if you have enough airflow through the case, they don't need a dedicated fan sucking air in for them. So, yeah. But again, that also depends on how you decide to build the computer you're putting in there. Like my computer, the one I'm running right now, um, it's got 120 millimeter on the top. I think it's a 80 millimeter on the back that circulate air mostly just through the case. And then it has three 120 millimeter fans on the front that pump air through the radiator for the liquid cooling for the CPU. So the air going through the case just cools like the MOSFETs, the uh, capacitors, everything else on the case, and the circuits on the case, or not on the case, on the motherboard, uh, and the air coming out and purges the air coming out of the graphics card. So mine's a little different, and I run the fans at really low voltages. So like when it starts up, the fans spool up to max, stay there for a minute, and then come back down to like 20%. So they spin really low, but it's enough air exchange um, to make sure that the CPU doesn't overheat. And it's tied into each other, so as the CPU heats up, or as the GPU heats up, it the fans speed up. But that doesn't happen often at all. Like it's happened a few times on a few games. No, I really like the idea though. It's a really fun project. Projects like that are really neat. Like really, really, really neat. Thank you. I appreciate that. Projects help keep me out of trouble. I'm just trying to figure out how to split this stuff up. Um, like making it easy for 3D printing. So this over here is the top. I can actually remove this so it's not confusing or less confusing. Um, what I was thinking, okay, so you said it was, where's that? So, wooden frame with acrylic sheets around it. Um, so like vacuum form, I guess. So then you could cut out those machine gun slots, like just X-Acto razor blade, cut them out, and then 3D print that same piece and just glue it on the front of the DVD drive. And if it needs a button, it could be, I don't know, the vent on there, you just push on it. And that's another piece that you would 3D print separately. So you 3D print the main gun cover, and then the button is another 3D print that goes through and gets glued on. And then you like if this is the gun cover up top, you could either angle it so the DVD comes out at an angle and then you set it in top. I don't think you could come in, or you could just go straight up if there's enough space. you could go straight up, and DVD drives work vertically. They work just fine vertically. So you could just glue it on like that and then have the drive pop up with everything on top of it, put your CD in or DVD in, and then push it and it would go back down. That should work. And if you were tight on space, you could, depending on the DVD drive and the manufacturer and stuff, you could get a schematic and see what on the front is necessary and how to tear it down. And once you get that tear down, you could, yeah, you could pretty easily figure out what you can and can't remove from the front of the CD holder and just attach your pieces in there and just, yeah, that would work. Again, that, like, a lot of that does require, yeah, and if it's a foot tall, then yeah, that's more than enough space for a DVD drive to slot in there. Like, one of the only things you could do to that model to make it, let's just go over the top ridiculous, is you could put the components inside to make it radio controlled. So you can drive it around when it's not your computer. But then again, I don't know that I would trust driving my computer around. So, yeah, you've got the space in there. It's a lot easier than you would probably think. Um, like, I don't know a ton about it, but there are a bunch of forums online that go through like basically everything you need to know for putting together RC stuff. And there's tons of YouTube videos on them. Like, doing RC stuff is way, way, way easier than most people think, just because all the info's out there and you don't really need to be an expert to do it. And most of the guys that, okay, I can't say most. There are a lot of guys that are really, really, really into RC, cars, trucks, whatever, that either work at or own um, like hobby shops. And a lot of the times they'll go on like forums or just help people figure out RC car, plane, boat, whatever, to help them out, yes, but also because they want to bring business into their shop. So it's a business opportunity for them, which means you picking their brain um, is business to them. It's not taking advantage, it's just their business. So they're invested in helping you make what you want. And if you were to like go into uh I don't know, like Hobby Town or something if you're in the US, um most of those guys are really knowledgeable, or like a local radio controlled whatever store. They're really knowledgeable, and most of them are happy to help you out and help you with a project. Like I I have a ROV that I need to figure out new props for. And I went in, explained my problem to a guy at a local hobby town, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, you can just use like airplane I don't know why I can't speak. Airplane propeller prop adapters. I can't use the propellers, but I can use the prop adapters, which means I don't need to model this whole thing that latches onto the drive shaft. I just need to model the prop on the adapter part, which makes it a lot easier for me. So, yeah, it's those guys are usually really happy to help you out and help you get something that you're happy with, because that just means you'll probably come back for your next project. Ah, yeah, there are a lot of people that are really helpful. It sometimes, like with a lot of the projects that I work on, okay, I guess it's close to 50-50. Like, there are some people that just point out problems and don't offer any solutions. It's just, these are all the problems with what you're doing. This is why it won't work. This is whatever, whatever, whatever. And that can be helpful. There are there is definitely a time where that is necessary. Huge qualifier. But if you're just going to pose, like, if you're just pointing out the issues, but you don't have solutions, it's not helpful. Um, like, I know when I looked at that, I started pointing out issues first and asking, like, if you'd considered it. And you said you had a solution for it or an idea for it, and great, no need to press the issue. Like, it's just something that stood out from building a few computers and working on stuff. And then you get into the people that are just like, nah, everything about your idea is horrible, it'll never work. whatever, whatever, whatever. Thank you. I really don't need that crap. If you're not going to be at least a little bit helpful, there's no point in what you're saying, so just whatever. And learning how you need to deal with that just so you can deal with it takes a while. Like, I haven't always been super comfortable with... Okay, I'm still not always. Go with that. I'm still not always comfortable with, like, a lot of criticism on projects. But it really depends on the project. Like, some projects, I need that. Like, I do. I need to know all of the issues. And there's definitely a time and place for it. So, yeah. Hopefully I wasn't overly critical. Offered at least some solutions. Like, I try not to point out issues that I can't think of a solution to. And if I do, I'll say that. Like, I see this as an issue, but I have no idea how to fix it. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. I like getting straight to the point. Like, with a lot of stuff. And at the same time, I enjoy playing games, so I don't know, you want to, like, if it's just for fun and you're just screwing around, fine, mess around all you want. Dude, like, that's entertaining. As long as the people that you're messing around with are, like, understand, fine with it too. Then it's usually whatever, no big deal. But there's also a point for, like, being at least somewhat serious. I have a hard time taking a lot of things too seriously. I think there are plenty of things that I should take more seriously, but don't. No, I should take more things more seriously, but I don't. But that doesn't mean I won't give it to you straight. Like, I try to be straightforward, and part of that is, like, just being blunt sometimes. And a lot of people don't like blunt. A lot of people get offended by blunt. And for me, I've learned that that's a them thing, not a me thing. Like, if they want to whatever, fine. I, I don't have the energy or time to care. Like, I just don't. Oh, that reminds me, I need to pull that off. So when I first designed this, okay, let me step back for a second. So this component, the way it locks in is you've got space up here for a hex key, and that's big enough for M3 hex key to fit through. And then down here, the driver will go down into this and lock into a hex key. So let me back out and go back over to these really quick. So you can see the hex key goes in up here. There's a long shaft that guides it to go down that hole, which is in the base piece. So we've got the shaft that it goes down, the base piece that it goes into, and then on the bottom, that hole comes out, and there will be some kind of piece that gets glued up in there. So there's a captive M3 nut inside. And when I first modeled this component, because this is a component, this is not, like, that's not a component. That's an early draft. it has this that sticks up, and that doesn't go there. It actually gets glued into the bottom of the locking mechanism. So I need to remove that, leave the hole for it, because the hole stays there. And the nut doesn't actually go in this piece. The nut actually goes in the box piece. So it'll go on the outside of the box. So once that nut goes through, it's holding everything inside. And then there's a recess on the top for just a small, I'm not really sure what right now, to cover the nut. And then if you need to take it out, you can just put your hex key in and unlock the whole thing, and then this whole part will come off or out. So basically, each one of these holes represents a piece that is removable from the grimoire. And the way I designed the deck boxes was so that, here, I'll move this guy in so you can see better, at least a little bit, what I'm talking about. Okay, so once that lock is inside of this piece, and there are, what, 9 of these? So it'll hold 18 deck boxes on a side, the way this is designed right now. So, one second. So the deck box, like, it's kind of hard with the lighting here to see these, but it's got these holes that this piece here, little latch piece, locks into. And it's only on one side with the latch. There's not, so they stick out 3 millimeters. This goes in 3 millimeters, which is probably a little much on this, but it's fine. I've got the space. It doesn't really show through on the inside. Like, you can see it's a little thinner if you've got a really bright light behind the hole. But yeah, so this just slots in, and then the button, so the top button unlocks the left side, the bottom unlocks the right side, which is why those little markings are in there to help me make sure that I get all of the the locking components in each of these so they go to the right side, the correct side. Yeah, so it's just been pulling basically this component apart to make each piece that'll be 3D printed. So yeah, now that's a component which can be 3D printed. Yeah, that one's done too. Oops. I like to have this out so I can and so these two pieces, this piece and this piece, will get glued together after having these internal pieces slotted in. So yeah, like, it's tearing it apart. And also these, like the buttons, I still need to make the button and the plunger, or the whole plunger mechanism I still need to make. But I think other than these 2 sliding pieces, which I think I'll do one each way, just close together and move them further apart. Yeah, let's do that. But yeah, it definitely helps having a 3D printer knowing how to model in CAD software, like a lot. Honestly, I don't know if I would have gotten a 3D printer if I hadn't known how to do CAD. I probably would have, but it would have been like, I don't think I would have gotten one as expensive or that has as large of a print bed if I didn't already know how to do CAD. Just doesn't seem worth it to me. But again, I'm biased because I know how to use CAD. I'm biased about that. So it is nice though. It's really strange to me how with a 3D printer I could literally sit on my butt all day. Yeah. And build something physically. So building this model, I like just by not getting up, working on the computer all day, I can end up with something that will be a physical model. It's absolutely hilarious. Okay, so that's already missing the center. That's not missing. Okay, so this one I will do the up, the lower. This one I will do the upper. So a bunch of the lower over there. Just do that. So selecting is kind of weird in a lot of CAD programs. When you select, like if you do a big drag select, it looks at your selection and then says, okay, everything behind that is what you're selecting. In a lot. I'm not going to say everyone because I know they're not all like that. But in a lot of them, especially like free CAD ones, they're just like, oh, okay, you want that area and everything behind it. And I know there are ways to work around that, but it's always been funny to me. Okay, so this one's the did it take me long to come up with the design for this? Is that what you're asking? Or like, okay. I don't know. Again, a long time is relative to a lot of to almost everything, but I've been thinking about this project for like just back of my mind thinking about it. I would say about a year. Um, but like actively thinking how parts are going to work together, it's been okay. I'm going to include the deck box in it because this is like without this, that doesn't work. Um, 3 months, maybe 2 months, 2 or 3 months. Um, like I had a friend who Same friend that helped me set my 3D printer up. He worked for GE for a long time, managing a bunch of their 3D printer stuff. Um, and so he helped me with like finding the 3D printer that would fit my needs best and all that. And he helped me come up with uh, this this mechanism right here. So where it pushes down, and then this one goes in, which pulls this back using a dovetail, basically. So as this pushes in this direction, so pushes along this frame, it's actually getting pulled underneath, so it can't come out. And then it just uses the deck box out here as something to push against. Um, and my original idea was actually, I think I might still have it on here. Is that it? No, I don't still have it on here. Right? That's no, that's not it either. I'm gonna move that though. So I would guess, like rough guess, I would say outside time, probably about 3 months working on this, like working weekly at least on this. Um, and a big part of that with the deck box, like a big part of that has been the deck box. This I've been working on for 3 weeks, like actively modeling for 3 weeks. Most of it has gone into the deck box. And before the COVID numbers started picking up, um, I would play with a few local friends uh, once a week on Saturdays over at a friend's place. We'd like there'd be a bunch of guys get together and just go play Commander. A lot of fun, bunch of really good guys, all different stuff going on, doing different things, but it's really fun. It's a good place to get together. It's a good bunch of guys. It's kind of weird being one of the oldest ones there, but whatever. I enjoy it. Um, Not all of it, not all the people, but hey, I'm an adult. I can deal with that. Oops. Um, so I took the variations on this deck box over there every week, and so I would take one over and I'd be like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And it wasn't I when I'm asking for input on a project, one thing that I've learned is to try and avoid uh, putting my own bias in someone else's opinion. So, what I mean by that is if I handed this deck box to someone and said, tell me what you think about this, and just do that, I'm going to get their thoughts, not something that either I want to hear or I'm looking for specifically, at least at first, and that's a good thing. So when I first hand it to someone, I'm like, tell me what you think of it. And if they ask questions, I'll answer them. I don't tell them how it works. I don't tell them why like the top is recessed. I don't tell them about features of it. I just hand it over, tell me what you think. And I mean, I've gotten really good responses. Like when the original top was just flat, they're like, hey, oh, finally decided to wake up. Fine, I'll move stuff out of your way. Um, Why don't you recess the top because I put dice or a life counter or something up there? Great idea. Really easy to do. Yeah, she's an old cranky lady. She's 18. Yeah, thank you for coming by. Everyone likes a cat on stream. Here. No one really cares about me. They care about the cat. It's fine. Come here. Psst. Come here. Yes, I moved my keyboard out of the way so you couldn't just stomp on it. Yeah, thank you. Oh, she's a grumpy butt. Like, she's a grumpy old butt. But that's fine. So, like, I wouldn't tell them about the notches in the side or anything else. And like people would just play with it. And if people playing with it figure out something that it needs, great. Oh, here. I'm gonna come back here and do that. Yeah. And then, I mean, of course I got the, like, your design, like, I don't like it because one of them was literally the outside needs designs on it. Like, put Magic the Gathering trademark symbols on your box to make me like it better. And I'm like, that's not at all what I'm going for, but thank you for telling me you don't like it because it's fancy. I appreciate that. That's whatever. I don't care. It's obviously not someone who would want the box, and I don't need or have the time to try and appease everyone. I'm trying to do something fairly specific. But another one that was really good was this lip that runs around that holds this hard card sleeve in. Like here, you can see the lip a little better with that on there. It used to be a lot thinner. And one of the guys was like, well, it's kind of hard just setting a card in and sliding it in when you run into the lip all the time. Easy fix. So I just extended the lip all the way to where it meets up on the inside. Doesn't interfere with anything, makes it easy to use. Really like stuff like that. And it's all about taking what you can use and discarding what you can't. And it's not an easy process learning how to do that at all. But it helps eventually. Okay, so this one we're building the top and okay. So here you can kind of see a little better how the dovetails go together. So this is inside, so we want to remove this one. And I like doing things like this that are symmetrical at the same time. So this one is the bottom piece, which I can actually remove that, which is this one. So now you can really see how the dovetails slide together. So even though they're opposite, this one locks in and is the outside one here, and then as they pass, the outside one that's moving, sliding, this one slides towards us, is pushing that other one in. So it will pull these locks inside as the button is depressed. And you need a lot longer button press than I originally had on here. Like, it's one of the things I was measuring earlier today. This only has so on the blue axis, z-axis, it only has, you can see down in the bottom right, the distance. So when it's snapped on that axis to this face, it only has 3.72 millimeters of travel. So if that was a direct translation, yeah, it'd be easy to pull in that 3 millimeters, but it's not a direct translation because that 3 millimeter movement only moves this a little bit. It's something like 2 millimeters, if that, um, which isn't going to work at all. So this needs to be able to slide a lot further because this is a reduction in transitional movement as well as this. So that's why this one is long. Like I need to reverse that, don't I? I got that backwards. The outside one needs to be short so it can have a more travel, and the inside one needs to be long so it can have more force along it. But again, that doesn't matter for like that's not going to change anything about the external geometry in this component. So I don't need to remodel it. If that makes sense. Like if it's something that I'm messing with for how it prints and how it functions, as long as it gets saved as a component like that, and that's what I'm going to print, I don't really need to remodel it on the piece. It would probably be a really smart idea and really advantageous for me to do that, because otherwise I'll get screwed somehow. Somehow I'll get screwed later by that. Almost guarantee it. But am I going to do it correctly? No, I'm not. Okay. So I need to separate these, which means what? You're back? There you go. Yeah. Oh, is that good for scratching your mouth on? Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that a little further away. So it doesn't, I'm not necessarily looking for it to copy everything, like every little aspect of what I had on there, but it's fine that it doesn't. It needs to get most of it, so filling in that missing geometry is easy. And then, which it did, like that captured basically everything, which means I can just go through and delete. Delete all that because it's unnecessary now. Okay. Next up is figuring out how this prints. While I redo the exterior. Okay, so first thing is the bottom. And that doesn't need that on there. What? No, I don't want you getting under my arm. I know you love to lay there, but you can't. I'm trying to get stuff done. Are you hungry and that's why you're bothering me? Did you run out of food? Okay, I know how to print this. So when I print things, excuse you. Thank you. Sorry, I need a space for my elbow. You can't lay there. You're all grumpy, huh? So when I print things, I prefer not to use support material if I don't need to. And I'm also thinking about the material stresses on this for printing it. So one of the things is I can't print it in this orientation where it prints up because the shear forces on this tab down there are just going to rip it off. Like, because the layers are all bound into each other, welded kind of into each other, they can shear off of each other fairly easy. So if I were to rotate that, 90 degrees. So if I print it in this orientation, so all the wraps are going like that. So the push down on it is along it, and the push on that. So that can shear it off this way, which makes those tabs really tiny. So that's actually worse because of that. Like, that's actually a lot weaker of a print because it's only that little piece. But if I print it like this, I only need the support material under a little bit of the outside because that angle shouldn't be enough for the printer to care. And then that wraps up here, so that should be one piece that goes way up there, and everything else is fine as well. So yeah, that's going to be kind of a weird one, but I mean, the strength really matters in these pieces. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Kind of sucks. And it would actually, like, man, I think I do actually need to print it, like, for the least support material. I need to print it like that. Like, I can clean that up, and it's got a reasonably large face on there. So, eh. And then this I need to clean up and make shorter because it needs a lot longer travel distance to make that move. so. I'm just going to eyeball this. Opposite side. So if I cut it off like right around there, just go to cut it in half on that side. And a lot of things I do just by what seems like it'll work. Sometimes it does. A lot of times it doesn't. But you know what? Works for me. And since I'm doing this, I mean, okay, I'm making this for a friend, yes. But I'm also doing it for myself. So I don't really care. I mean, if I were doing this for like an employer, they might care about me just like heuristically feeling my way through making it. Seems right, boss. But does it work? I don't know. We'll find out when I make it. Stop wasting money. Yeah, whatever. Okay, fine. Yeah, and well, as long as I'm happy with it and it does what I want it to do, like, but we'll figure that out at a later date after I print this stuff off and see if it actually works. I always think it's funny when people wax poetically about form following function, about something that's completely dysfunctional. So it's like, okay, fine. Form can follow function, but if it's dysfunctional, does it matter? Or is that the purpose? I mean, if that's the purpose, fine. So yeah, there's the... Actually, you know what I should do? Just to make things easier for people on the stream to see, I'm going to do it like this. The hair tickles. Yeah. Okay. So putting it like that. Yeah. So now you can see as you push down on the button, this slides over, which sucks under that. Like the pushing motion, like they slide under each other, so it pulls it in, so it can't just pop up and out. And it's got a lot of space to slide. I may need to make that steeper just so it pushes in more quickly, but that's something I can adjust after a first print. I mean, I could do the math and figure it out now, but honestly, this isn't a lot of filament waste, so I'm fine just printing it out. But I am going to make these components really quick. Pop this out so I can double check, make sure I'm naming things appropriately. I try to name things accurately in just the name without having to do a description. So all of these are part of the cartridge lock, since that whole cartridge that locks the deck boxes in is one piece or one component. So it's the cartridge lock, motion transfer, uh, button to latch. So let's do it like this. There. Now it's hard to mix up what exactly it is. Nice. And then make component. Nice. And then I think one of the last ones I have to do is actually the button piece, which needs some adjustments, but it's all right. Okay. So which one do I want to do? Which way is that facing? So I will. So just so I'm working with the same, I guess, pieces. Wait. Okay, I was confused for a second thinking I messed up on these, that they weren't reversible, but they are. I just saw something incorrectly on the model. So yeah, what I need to do on this, since all I want to work with is this cylinder here, everything else can go. So it's just lining things up so there's nothing behind it. Like, I don't even care about this wedge, so I just need to see that this right here is where the cylinder ends. So if I go off to about there, make sure that goes underneath of it, that should leave basically just the cylinder. Okay, so I'd already thought about how tall I want the button to be, which was that height. So I can actually remove all of that since it's unnecessary at the moment. All right. This shows where the bottom of that is. So I think what I actually want to do is shorten this up a lot. Like half gets me to there. I think that's okay, because that gives me another, that over doubles the travel distance. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So from there. Yes, I do want to delete that. And all of that. So one thing that I learned to do is you line up lines. So all of these lines, like all of those are in a line. So as long as they're all lined up, it doesn't really matter where I click and delete. I'm removing everything I need. I probably should have done the drag on that. whatever. Okay, so now we have, just making sure that doesn't extend to the corners. So now we have the cylinder bottom done. And I know how tall it needs to be. So one thing that I like doing is having an anchor point that's actually a surface. So I can go back and delete that later. But when I'm, what do they call this? Push-pull. I call it an extrusion because it takes the piece and extrudes it to whatever dimensions you needed. So what the? Oh. Okay, so I did that incorrectly. So this one up top is the size the button needs to be. The one on the bottom was the size the cylinder is. So I don't actually need those guides. What I need is a surface up here, which means just going like that. And I should probably pull from the bottom just so it makes it a solid. Oops, what in the world did I just zoom through that? Gotcha. So anyway, I should pull from the bottom so it makes it a solid, because usually when you do that, whatever, you'll see. But I don't care. Oh, never mind, it didn't do it. Maybe it did. So, okay, that is a solid. So if I had pulled from the bottom side, no, still a solid. Sometimes you don't get a solid when you do that, but it wouldn't have mattered. I would have just drawn a line across the top. So 3D printing this, the orientation only slightly matters because this angle right here, it's enough, like it's steep enough where the layers of filament will lay just fine on top of each other, and I don't need support material underneath of it. And if I flip it so it's going up the angle, which would make it look smoother, I would need support material for all of these corners, which I don't want at all, because it would just mess up the face that they're touching on this piece, because it attaches every once in a while, and it just makes less post-processing work. So that guy's done. So it needs to become a component. So the other thing that I'm thinking about while I'm designing this is how these pieces are going to be assembled. Because if you can't assemble it, you need to print it in one piece. But the way I've thought through assembly on this is, so you're basically assembling it mostly upside down at first. So you drop the 2 plunger pieces in for the buttons. And once those are in, here, is that that's a component. What are you doing, weirdo? She's like trying to squirm underneath my arm over here. So I've got my hand on the keyboard, and she just keeps squirming underneath my arm because she wants to be an armrest, apparently. I mean, she is a snuggle monster, so she likes that. I mean, she's my therapy cat. Like I deal with chronic pain a lot, so like she helps me get through a lot of that crap, which is nice. I talk shit about her, but I really like my cat. She's been really good. She's been a really easy cat. Like disease stuff, getting sick, almost never. Like she had fleas when we got her, but yeah, she's been a good cat. Demanding sometimes, but what cat isn't? Yeah. Watch the viewer count skyrocket now that there's a cat on stream. Should probably change the channel stuff so it says, "Come watch the cat." So anyway, the plungers slot down in there first, and oh yeah, I was gonna put that up so I can. Show this while I'm doing it. Oops, not that axis. Oh, I put it upside down, didn't I? So keep in mind, not all the internal components on this are accurate to what I've redrawn. But I can still give you a pretty good idea of what's going on. Okay. Slide that over a bit. So basically we've got the cylinders here, which is this top piece, and all of this gets printed together. So we drop the cylinders in and we've got those pieces down there, and that'll basically slide over the top of what goes on down here. So down on the bottom, you put this on here and then slide that whole piece into the slots where they go, right there. And then once that's done, this whole piece up top can get glued in. Like you just glue the ends. And you shouldn't need to replace it ever. But even if you do, like even if you need to replace something, you can cut the outside or whatever. And then the internals are just kind of loose in there. And they could come out. Yeah, I'll probably have to figure something like that out. But shit. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's kind of dumb. So I'll need to put some kind of a tab on the outside that locks these pieces in so they don't go out. Brilliant. Brilliant. I love seeing new problems as I go through. Always helpful. So did that take all of those off, all the components? Yeah, it did. So I need to undo that. Yeah. Okay, so that should, yeah, put those back. All right. You know what? I'm going to explode component. And then my edits won't matter at all. Why are you wanting me to rotate? I just want to move it. No worries. Do what you gotta do. Just kind of dorking around anyway. How much of a lip is that? Oh, never mind. It's not. Gotcha. I mean, I could put like a latch in this channel on the bottom. So once that slides over it, it has a really hard time coming out, but it can if you force it. Well, I got those components done, so I can take a break from thinking about that. What else we got? That Aerocrete stuff in the bottom of the hard case model. Didn't I already do that? I did not? That's weird. That's really weird. So yeah, the deck box is actually printed in 2 pieces. Oh yeah, that's why I needed. That's what the issue was. So this recess on the top, which is this recess, like this is just the recess part without the extraneous pieces. It doesn't exactly line up with the center of the bottom. So the center of that recess is not the center of that, which sucks. But it is. Okay, how do I do that? So they both have the same center in the back. So if they're lined up, centered in the back, that one needs to go. There's the center. Oh no, I need to figure it out differently. Okay, so if we are centered in the back, oh yeah, I exploded. Oh yeah, I forget. So in this one, I've kept all my like old component designs, and I just make it a new component design each time. I forgot about that. It's one way to keep your previous versions around. That's what I was looking for to say. So like, yeah. All right, so that's the midpoint. Okay, so that line is what? It's gonna be weird. 35.99 millimeters. Well, that's annoying. Whatever. Okay, go into my imp. No, I want that. So I'm going to need go 0.1 millimeters because yay. 35.99 millimeters from the back. Okay. So I'm assuming that line. Okay. So that's where the top needs to go at the midpoint to the back wall. So on the green axis, go through there. Perfect. Oops. All right. Again, 35.99. So on this guy, we go 35. So on the green axis to the back wall, and then 35.99 back up. So right now I'm just looking for the approximate spot. So 36 is the midpoint. Wow. So it's just barely off the midpoint from that point. I think that's close enough, actually. So if I remove this and that and put in that, so then I move this piece. Okay, let me edit this component again. Move these lines. All right. Let's see that. All right. So then grab this. I'm going to grab it by that point. There's where we want it to snap to. Make sure we've got the right one at the center of that. Yes. Okay. Delete. 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 Okay. So that is now where we want it on the bottom. Next step is slicing off the bottom piece. So not for it needs to be double sliced. So anything below where that line is needs to come off completely. So I've got a lot of removal to do. So first things first, I need to go around this edge where the geometries meet, the intersections, and just put a line in there. Because I don't want the deck box's total volume getting any larger, because otherwise I'd have to go back and remodel a ton of stuff on the other piece, which would suck. I mean, I could do it. It's possible. This little bit of time here is worth the effort. Oops. Okay, so you haven't gotten a line, so we'll put one in there. I think that's all of them, right? Yeah. Got them all. Nice. So you can see this is off center towards the back, which doesn't really matter. Most of the weight is going to be slightly off center towards the back, since it's basically going to be full of cards. So this centerpiece stays, the outside goes. So it's just going to have this tiny little overlay lip, I guess. Did I get all those corners off? Really, you're going to stick on there. Anyone else? Okay. So basically, we got the bottom piece done. And this is a lot shallower than this is. So when another deck box sits on top, it's not going to go all the way to the bottom of this recess, but it will go all the way to the edges. So that's the top, and then this is what's going to sit in it. So it's kind of annoying when I print, it's going to need some fill material on the very bottom of it, just to keep it from having like this whole bottom sag down, however far that is. But it'll be worth it, because then the decks, like, once you start stacking these, like, if you're just stacking them on a shelf, they'll eventually start sliding off each other, but this way they can't. Yeah. I thought about doing, like, literally just now, thought about doing the same recess on the bottom, and I mean, that would let you put like a plate that goes top and bottom to hold on to it, and you could hinge one and then get it out. But it's getting into a little more complexity than I want to deal with. So now I just got to go inside and remove this geometry. Like, actually, I'm kind of curious. If I don't remember if I select it before or after. Okay, so outer shell. So if I select this, and then I go, yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay, never mind. Okay, so again, I need to make sure that this intersection gets a run around. No, I don't. No, I do, because that's the outside, yeah. Okay, so this is the top of what you see on the outside. So if I were to just delete these geometries, it would leave weird looking crap on the outside. So I need to make sure I get the, not the midpoint, I want the friggin' intersection. Come on, I hate it when it does this. That's annoying. Whatever. It's really annoying when the programs don't operate the way you want them to, but again, that's user error, nothing more. Okay, so we get it on that axis, and we constrain it to that line, and then we got the line again. So we constrain it to the red axis. Good. From endpoint. And that one's already got it. Okay. So now we've gone all the way around. If I didn't say welcome back, welcome back. Yeah, so now that's like that. I should also be able to remove that. Okay. I messed that up. Yeah, I did. Yeah, because we're not going down past the bottom of that, right? Yeah. Okay. Now I see what I did. Which means hopefully I can do it not again. Okay, so we got all the corners cleaned up. Come on. Got all our corners cleaned up, I believe. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Was there anything else I needed to change up there? That comes together. No. Okay. So, alright, what's the naming convention on these guys again? Deck. What is that? That's O2. So, excuse me. Make component. Main boxy. It's not the main body, it's the main boxy. Okay. So I need to print another one of both of those off. Oh, I need to do that. It's really annoying how edit component. It's really sometimes rather frustrating when you accidentally remove a side of a face. And like before I put this in, if I click in the center, it's this entire face that gets selected. So by dividing all of those faces, it's like, oh, I see all those as different now. And I really need those recesses in there. Otherwise, that whole side of the deck box becomes useless. Well, okay, not useless, but it doesn't work how I want it to, which for this project, okay, it's useless. But yeah. And this X in the bottom is just a nice aesthetic structural piece. So when it's solid, it doesn't, like, it's not as rigid as when there's geometry inlaid in the bottom. And so that really helps with that. And I mean, I could inlay geometry on the side. It's not important to this right now. And by not changing the lid piece and just adding this on, I already have the lid downloaded as a, well, downloaded and converted into a G-code file. So yeah, it's coming along. Now I got this guy done for now. So this should be able to sit in the top of the other ones, or like this one. Like this one doesn't have that bottom geometry, but it does have the top, so this could sit on a shelf in the next one and so on. But these should sit just fine. Yeah, like I said, they are like off-centered, but most of the weight is still going to be over them, because if you take into account this piece here, that should be about the center of where that is. So they're centering over the cards themselves, not the box, which is kind of weird, but it's fine. Oops. Next project is, so I'm making Aerocrete as part of one of the things I'm working on around the house. Just moving things around so I can show this off a little better and getting a drink because, yay, water. Okay. So we got this cement mixer, and basically there's a PVC tube that goes down it. How's that? You like that? Um, and it's going to have foam that it directs to the bottom. So the foam comes out the bottom of these mixing blades. And there's a cap with a hole in it that fits through. There's, I'm trying to arrange this so you can see. There's a little bit of slop in here. But, you can see it better like that. So the hole that it goes through, like there's a little bit of movement in there. And I didn't want it to be too tight. So I have a couple of options while I'm designing this. So I tried it out yesterday without the foaming agent or the air going into it because I'm still working on that. But just pumping water through it works. But a ton of water comes out this end and just sprays back up in your face. Not ideal, especially when it's foam that's coming out of there. So the options I have are I can either make a plate that goes on the mixer and then seats. So the mixer piece seats up against it, so it's attached to here, and then it just kind of pushes up against it, and as you use it, the friction is fine, it'll wear it, but whatever. And I mean, it's in foam, so if I print it in PLA, it's gonna wear down quick anyway. I don't exactly care. I can print a couple of them and slide them on and off as needed. The other option that's a little more complicated is I can sand down the lip. You can see this little lip on this side. So it's meant for when you put it into a PVC as a plug, that lip holds it in the correct place so it's flush. But this side is big and has a tiny lip on the back face. So I could file the front lip down and put the plug in backwards. And then it's got all of that area to sit in and plug it up and stop the foam from coming out. But I think the easiest, do you need to get up? Are you stuck underneath me? No? See ya. Oh, you just wanted to get on the mixer. Just, okay. So I think what I'm going to do for the first one is just, I need to get this geometry. It's a, what is that? It's a hexagon on the end. So I need to model the shaft size, and I'm probably just going to make something that's like that long. I try to model in millimeters. It's just easy when I go to the printer. Everything here is in imperial, so this is, I think, like a 3/4 inch chuck, like for a 3/4 inch chuck or a 1/2 inch chuck. On a, like, I've got a big mixing drill, but I've got my excellent, cheap, but it functions Harbor Freight calipers. So for the, let's make sure I've got that zeroed, off, 0. So one of the problems is the battery isn't quite held in place well. All right, so we got 12 millimeters on here for the thin part. That's important. So the thinnest diameter is 12 millimeters. The thickest diameter we can get by rotating it in here until it goes over that piece. Try and make sure that it catches it correctly. Of course, I let off the battery door because you get what you pay for at Harbor Freight. You do. I've had these for a while. I kind of like them because I'm not concerned about breaking or whatever. Like, if these break, I'm out less than $5. Fine. Like, a really nice pair of calipers with the inset piece on the end and all the, like, rolly pieces, they get spendy. And, yeah. Don't have the money for that right now. All right, so it looks like we've got 13 millimeters. So 12 on the smallest and 13 on the largest. So if I make a diameter that is, all right, so now we go to here. And first thing we do is make a line. So usually from the origin, so we've got 18, so I need 13 millimeters is the largest. Okay. So I got to change this since I didn't do it already. So we've got precision. So we've got millimeters. We want the precision to 0.00. And then we want to go 0.05. Yeah, that should work. And that's usually the precision I have it on. Hang on just a moment. No clue. They can wait. So what I want to do is I want a 12.5 millimeter diameter for the cover on this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm splitting the difference between, like, on the hexagon, make sure I'm not scratching the couch. So on the hexagon, the thinnest diameter this way is 1 millimeter less than the widest diameter that way. So by splitting the difference, it's going to be really tight and difficult to get on, but that means it's not going to move up and down. And if I warm up the whatever material, whatever metal this is made out of, with a heat gun or a soldering iron or an iron, whatever, if I heat that up, welcome back, thank you, and then push this piece that I'm designing onto it. Do you need more food? Is that what you're complaining about? Or did you eat? It's just going to hold it really tight, which is exactly what I want, because I don't want it sliding up and down. And if it breaks, it's kind of a, oh well, I can print another one, kind of a thing. Okay, so we got that. So that's the internal size that I need. So I need to remove that, and now I need to figure out how many millimeters I need that to go up before, like, how much of the shaft do I want that to hold on to? Trying to be grumpy on stream? Yeah? Just a grumpy little cat? Yeah? Don't take my word for it. She's the one that's saying it. All right. So one of the things I do often is I just get a visual for how much I want to, like, how much space I want things to take up. And so I got the calipers. I guess wearing a dark shirt with dark calipers doesn't really help. So how much do I want this to take up? I mean, that's, okay, so that's 52 millimeters. That seems pretty good. So this piece goes onto a T, and this piece is 30, let's say 40 millimeters. So I don't want it to protrude into the T too much. And it's only the top of it that really. So I think 52 is. Let's go with 40. Well, you know what? Screw it. We'll go to with the answer to everything. It is going to be 42 inches tall, or 42 millimeters. 42 inches would be way bigger. Okay, so 42 inches tall. Because why shouldn't it be the answer to everything if it can be? All right, so then we'll go from the edge to the midpoint. Yeah, center. Okay. Next up, close it, zero it. We need to know what the diameter of this is. So that diameter is 48.2 millimeters, 48.3 with a little travel. So if we make that a 40, so it's got this little seam line in here. So I'm thinking if I make it just a little bit smaller than that seam line at 44, should I do 45? It's 45 millimeters. Like, yeah, sometimes it would be nice to have that little roller up top so I can get the more precise measurements in here. Or easier to get to the more precise measurements. So that's 45 millimeters. So I think that'll work. So if we do a, so 40, sorry, didn't mean to drop that on you. So we need a 45 millimeter diameter, so that's 22.5 millimeters. So again, we want this on the red axis, 22.5 millimeters out. 22.5 millimeters. Okay, so now that we got that, we can do another circle out to there. Okay, so now we've got two concentric circles. I can remove these lines in the bottom. Okay, so how much material do I want on the bottom? Because I want this thing to taper. So it tapers to the widest part on the top, so it gets, so it's a cone, so it gets skinnier as it goes that way down to the shaft. And to do that, I need to, like, I don't want it just to be 0 at the tip, or at this end of the shaft. So if I go to the end point, go to the midpoint, that is what? 26.25. So 6.25 millimeters. So if I go 7.75, it's a mil and a half. So then, all right. So I no longer need that line. Oops. I mean, that's true. I don't need that either. So one of the things that, oh yeah, I don't need this dude either. He is unimportant for scale. Okay, so if I, just to make sure I'm doing it on the correct spaces, so on blue axis all the way down to the bottom, and then on green axis out to there. Okay, so then from there, actually I want to delete that line first. forgot about that. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's fine. Okay. So I can continue that one out then. Remove this guy so it doesn't make a surface in there. Just so I'm getting on the correct line. I like doing this. And I do a lot of stuff that just helps me line up the way things I want them lined up. And they aren't necessarily like the right way to do it. Again, so splitting this distance, just forcing that onto the end of the shaft is just going to take up a lot of that. Because you're splitting the distance, it should make a pretty tight seal on there. I can always toss some silicone in to make it a better seal. It'll be fine. But that should be pretty tight, and it should spin with the blade. So then what I do is I select this piece and that piece. And then in in SketchUp, it's this tool, Follow Me. So we take, how do I do that? Oh yeah, I forgot. They want a face to follow. Okay, so I do actually need this face here. Okay, so we got the face, and then what we wanted to do is wrap around the outside, so we use the follow, and then we should just be able to go around this entire face, as long as we don't totally fuck shit up. Do that, and we got ourselves a cone. Granted, it doesn't have that internal tube anymore or whatever, but that's fine. That can all be put right back in. So to put it back in, all we need to do is close up the top. Delete that line for now. Go back to the bottom. Switch this to extrude. Pull that face down to there, and then go over to this side and cover that up. And that angle doesn't matter as long as it completes it. So that is the Aerocrete mixer end cap. And the, like, me thinking through this has basically been entirely on camera, plus like a couple minutes thinking about it while I was getting sprayed in the face by water and what do I need to stop that. So that'll go on the 3D printer tonight, and I'll probably start getting most of the Aerocrete stuff put together tomorrow. I don't know if I'll stream it, but I might. Who knows? Should just double check this. So calipers are amazing, and if you know how to use them really well, they're even more amazing. But there are so many things on, especially higher end calipers, that I don't know how to use. It's, yeah. And I grew up around this kind of stuff, so like missing something or not knowing how to use something is totally normal. The only people that know how to use stuff really well are the ones that have been trained in using it really well. So, yeah. Comparing skill level on stuff like that is kind of ludicrous in my mind. you don't work with it all day, you don't use it a lot, you don't use it for work, you're not that into the hobby that you're using it for, who cares? All right, back to this. So that was a little break working on the box and other stuff. So now we need the hinges and stuff. All right. So here's where hinges get weird. Because it needs these, just take a look at the Grimoire of the Dead. So here, I'm gonna, where's the order? So I pull that order, move to top. Okay, there we go. Taking a bath on camera, good for you. So we've got the book, and I just so happen to have one of the books I started reading recently. I read, I think it was the same one, not the same book, but a lot of, or not a lot, but some of Seneca's work in college. I really enjoy it. So anyway, when the book opens, there's no fixed hinge on it. There's no hinge on it. It's the binding at the back holding all of the papers, and the papers themselves, in a way, become the hinge. So when you're looking at this book, it's got this extraneous stuff on the outside of the hinge. So out here on the back of the book, there are all those bones. And so if you're looking for something that's going to be a deck box, here, I'll pull this out. It might be a little bit better. It's never going to lay flat because it's got this stuff down here. So it's always going to lay a little bit like this, which is fine. Like, it's not at all a problem. It's just something that needs to be planned for. Oops, wrong thing to disappear. That needs to disappear. Okay, so like planning for that, I don't necessarily want them to be really far apart from each other. And without those, I could just put a hinge up here. And the pieces would open so they're really close to each other with the hinge up here. But because of the way this looks aesthetically, I can't get away with that, because splitting the book right there, it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. And I may end up doing the lectern for it, but first up is getting the book done. First piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out just so I can see it. Let's go with 50. You know what? This does not. Oh. Okay, it doesn't need to be exact, but I ended up getting it exact on the last little bit. So I came out 50 millimeters, and then I just stay on each axis and snap it to the ends of this. So that is what we're looking at for hinge space. So, okay. So standard hinge would just be put down the center, midpoint to midpoint, which we can't do. So, I mean, there are a lot of other options that move the hinge like external. Like if I wanted to, I don't know, go out a couple millimeters and put a hinge up here so they like, okay, how would this be? Okay, so the book is closed and this hinge is just sticking out. Like my thumb tips are the hinge. When you close, okay, so when the book is closed, ugh, trying to think about this. Okay, so the book is closed. If the hinges are outside, yeah, the hinges open like this. Yeah. My hands don't bend in super weird directions, so trying to figure this out is awkward. So even if I move that in, like the hinge down to my knuckle, like we get a lot of movement, but that hinge is still outside. And I mean, there are ways to make it so that slides in and out, like along the edge. So you slide it out, it say snaps in place, and then the hinge is good, and then the whole thing opens up. And that could be used as a type of locking mechanism. Oops, sorry guys, I left the image up while I was modeling. So anyway, this is hinge area, this is midpoint. So like I was saying, this line represents like where my hands are. And I could put the hinge external to it and then just have it so like if this is where the hinge has to be to open it, it can slide down the spine on the bottom or down inside on somewhere, and then that locks it together. But people are going to try and open it because it's internal, not external. And while I am designing this for someone specific, I generally try to remove as many problems as possible for operation. Just people don't use things the way you expect. I mean, the first time I brought out one of these deck boxes to like a night where I was just going to have people take a look and tell me their thoughts. One of the guys like, so this is on. I've got my I've got an actual like not super spendy, but it's okay. Never mind. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's got some spendy cards in it. So it's a fairly spendy deck. The commander that's in the front cover wasn't super spendy, but damaging other people's cards is bad. So he takes the box and he's looking at it. He pulls the top off, pops the cards out, looks inside, puts it back together. And then to put this back on, he puts it on the front. And while it's still at this angle, just starts shoving it back in, like just bending the shit out of the front. And this case is my test case, so it's all grimy and gross because I use it while I've got glue on my hands and whatever. And like literally when I had thinner pieces up and was printing them horizontally, so there was only really a thin layer on the outside holding it on, just ripped that whole latch piece on the top off, which was a really good lesson to me. Don't print it like that because people are going to do dumb things. And yeah. So make sure you're thinking about stuff like that when you're building a project. And ideally, I'd like to use a piano hinge, I think, for this. I mean, there are probably better options, but yeah, yeah. Okay, so I need to make this more, I need to make this thicker. So just so I can visualize what I'm doing. Let's go like 10-ish millimeters. Yeah, 10 will be good. All right, so 10 millimeter. Red axis to the end, blue axis to the top, red axis to the end, and it should go back down. Excellent. Okay. So now I need to finish that central line around it. I hate when it zooms out like that. I wish I knew what the recenter button was on this, but whatever, it's fine. Okay, so we go across. All right, so we've got those two divided. So that's the center line. And I just like having that while I work. Just helps me keep it straight in my mind. Okay, so that hinge opens like that to open it. So if we wanted to do something where my thumbs are the bottom and we do this to open it, we need two hinges. We need one here and one there. Because it's closed. Oh no, we don't. Maybe. Okay, so if I pop up this Grimoire of the Dead again for a second. So I can adjust the knuckle bones on the spine so they don't really come around the corner much. Or I can do like a false spine that's the binding of the book and then attaches in. So do like a standoff here. Ooh, that's actually kind of a good idea. So if I were to make just a false spine on this, that the array base attaches to, how would that work? All right, so what I want to do for this is move it. That's what I thought. Thought I grabbed something else with that. So there's nothing below this and no sides are caught, so it should just be that. And it is. Okay. So then I need to rotate it 90 degrees. I need to move it. I'll grab it by that point. Pop it right. Wow. Okay. Shit. Okay, fine. So we put it on the endpoint and move it like that. So it's going to stay out over there for a minute while I move. That guy just out of it. And then this guy can get moved. In between them. So one of the nice things about working in components, which I'm not doing right now. So if I were to make this spine a component and work on it over here, it would make the exact same changes over there. Which is probably what I should do. Just so I can visualize better how the pieces are working together. But for now, you know what? No. No for now. Okay, so we are going to make this a component. Okay, so this is so that is the Grimoire spine and hinge. So now I need to add another one of those. More spine and hinge. That comes off of there. And then we need to rotate it. $90. And that should put this back where it was, basically. Close enough. And then when I edit it, it should edit both of them. So edit component, if I draw in a box. Yep, you can see the box on the other one. Perfect. Actually, yeah, that's coming out the bottom. This is exactly how I wanted it. So with that, we know that the hinge side here, or the outside there, is going to be outside on the table over on that one. So we're basically, now that we've got the like general size of this box, we're basically building backwards from the hinge to everything else. So gonna have to figure that out. I've got some other stuff to do around the house today. Like I've got a drywall and mudding project and painting and joy to go back to or to get done. I gotta pick up a bit before my wife gets home tonight from work. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call the stream about here. Um, really appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out during the stream. It means a lot. Um, always enjoy talking about other people's projects. Oh, no big deal at all. I'm like, I enjoy streaming. I streamed video games for a couple years on my personal account. Um, yeah, that's something I really like. I like helping people with their project ideas. I've like my brain is just, what can I make? Oh, someone's making something. How can I think of making it functionally better without destroying their idea? Because making stuff is really personal for a lot of people. I mean, if it's your job, it's different, but for people making a project, they're making it because it's something they like, generally. Again, if it's business, it's completely different. Well, not always, but you get the idea. So I really try not to intrude too much on people's like design ideas when they're working on a project, just because I know how I get sometimes when I'm working on a project and all I get is like people talking crap about it or only pointing out the negative. So I always try and at least talk about what's good about the project. And it bothers me a lot less now than it used to. People just like ripping a project apart. Like it used to bother me a lot. But I need to actually move that out, don't I? It used to bother me a lot more than it does now. And part of that is just me being able to say, don't have to like this you don't have to like everything about this. It's okay that you don't. It's actually probably a good thing that you don't. So my thought on the hinge, like this is how I process a lot of the projects I'm working on. Oh crap, I'm not editing that, am I? Edit component. There we go. Okay. I I actually process while designing or while building. I'm actually figuring it out in the middle of doing it, which maybe not the best idea, but it works for me. And that's the important part for me, since again, it's not my job. It's not a, like, modeling in CAD is not my profession, therefore I do not need to be as efficient as possible in my CAD designs. All right, so if I need point 5. So that should be a. So one of the things I'm doing is when I'm making bolt anchor points or bolt holes, which is what I'm thinking this is going to be, I got just a box of M3 nuts and bolts. And they're hex head M3, so 3mm bolts. And it makes it really easy for designing a project when you're using the same stuff all the time. Like, as long as I'm designing for M3 bolts, I don't need to bother with, oh, do I need to go get the M3 bolts, the M4 bolts, the half-inch bolts, the 16th of an inch bolts, whatever. I know this is what I'm working with, and it makes it easy. And the reason I don't work, or I'm not working right now, go with that, in inches, is because inches are way too inaccurate for designing a deck box. Like, when it's bigger, when you're working on something that's larger, yeah, it makes sense. When everything is in feet, inches, and fractional inches, fine, work in it. Work in whatever works best for you. I encourage that. Everyone should. But same qualifier here. If it's not working for you, find something that works for you. And instead of working in, like, I mean, all right, so let's see if I have the space to show you guys this. On the, oops, not that. That. Does that pop up? Yeah. Oh, gosh dang it. I left the Grimoire of the Dead stupid thing up while I've been doing a lot of this. Sorry about that. That's my being dumb. So anyway, on here, I'm going to slide my pick over a bit. I can twist this up since Cat's not here anymore. Okay. So with the accuracy on this, we can do inches. We can do fractions of an inch. We can do decimal inches. We can do decimal feet. Millimeter, centimeter, meter, standard. With the precision, like, okay, if we go up to half, we can do 1/64th of an inch, which is fairly accurate. But it's like, to reach that millimeter precision, it's not. And I mean, millimeters going down to, like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decimal places is super precise. And I mean, if you're working in a 3D printer, it's, unless you have a 3D printer that can get to that resolution, there's no point in building at that resolution, in my mind. Like, honestly, I could build at point 2 resolution, and that would force me to build uh, for the size of the filament. And I could do silly things, like I could make steps that are 2 rows wide and 2 tall, and just the level of precision is definitely there and possible, but it's not really necessary. Like 0.5 millimeter, I can get everything I need from that. Okay, so 5 millimeters from the end is the center of that. Oops. So instead of doing all the pieces like I did on the top one, now that I know the center is 5 mil, I can just, okay, I need to change that back. All right, so instead of 0.1, we're going with 0.5. Okay, so now it'll snap to 0.5, so 5 millimeters. And it'll, like, if you're on the face and you get way off to the side, it'll go approximate, but as long as you're close to it in this, it'll snap to that 5 mil mark. So now I gotta do the other side. And it grays out all of the components that you're not working in. So it's just gonna snap to that 5 mil that's on the other side. Like you can see it down here when, like, yeah, you can see that piece down there, which is, it's nice. Doesn't, it's looking for that last line that you made to snap to that. So it's not going to do it on the other side. If I went over to the other side now and did it, it would. And then just to double check, I'm pretty sure I'm drawing 3 millimeter line, like diameter circles. So 1.55, just to make sure. You know what? It's fine if it grips a little. No, I already calculated that for the threads, didn't I? No, I calculated. Okay, so I'm going to redraw this for 0.3 millimeters, which I think I calculated something correctly before, and I'm now not sure if I did or not. So oops, I'm just going to do it correctly and whatever. Okay, so I need on the blue, green, so this is on the face. I need 1.5 millimeters. Wait, what? No, I am editing that still. Good. All right, so on the face, going down 1.5. And that one just snapped to it. So, and that one snapped to the midpoint, which is not where I want it. Okay, so now we have all those holes in the same spot. So now if we put an M3 bolt through the end, we've got where those are going to go. So if that's our hinge down there, this is going to rotate around it. Okay, so if that is closed, our hinge rotates on that axis to open there. And we need it to actually open a little further by going over here. Because we want it to be able to come up a little bit. So I'm using this as an example. I did not mean to mess that up. I'm just screwing up a bunch of stuff up today. Okay, so if we're using this as an example, when it opens, the hinge is flat. And it's connecting from the outside. So kind of like these where it's connected out there. But we want it to be able to come up, like literally push up in the center of this. So when it's open, divide the pages so they're half and half. So it literally pulls up like that. Which means there's also going to need to be a hinge in the center that lets some of that stress out. Because that can't just be, oh, I mean, it could. It's getting more complex than I wanted it to be. Whatever. You need to do it correctly. Oh, by the way, if I like writing stuff down and sketching things out before I start working on them. Have I written in this one yet? A little. I've just started in this one. But I really like these notebooks. So it lets me sketch up top and write notes down on the bottom. This is handy with the conversion tables or fraction, whatever, metric unit, whatever. Like, that's kind of nice, but I can look all that stuff up on my phone, like just about everyone has nowadays. But I do really, really, really like the top portion is sketches and drawing, whatever, and then the bottom portion is writing, like lined paper. It's really nice. My ideal would be the top part. It'd be like 3/4 graph paper, and then 1/4 or 2/3 to 3/4 graph paper, and then the bottom writing. I would love notebooks like that. So, well, I said I was going to get off and go work on house stuff a bit ago, so I think I'm going to go do that. Thank you all for hanging out. Really appreciate you hanging out on the channel. The CAD files for this, I'll probably put a lot of them up online. The deck box, like I'm still working out how the like members area and stuff on the website works out, but a lot of this will go up on the website. I might put the deck box up on the website, I might not. I don't know, I should probably put this as part of the project design. Like a lot of our projects or the projects that I'm working on are going toward, like, I'm going to publish files for them on the Makerspace website because I'm trying to develop that community out on the Kitsap Peninsula where I live in Washington. So again, if there are files that are interesting to you, let me know. I'll try and get those up sooner rather than later. But website links, social media stuff's in the description. Check it out. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Again, thanks for stopping by. I usually try and stream Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes life gets in the way, but I'm trying to stream starting around 11 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So thanks again for stopping by. I'll catch you all later. Oops.